Hello and welcome to part 12 of the Tim Burton style character series. This is David Ward, and when last I left you in part 11, we had just added the color and fabric texture to the pants and created a shirt, and we also created shoes, but we haven't really messed with them yet. But right now we're going to go in, we're going to create a vest for him. So let's go ahead and grab the shirt, and we're going to Shift D, duplicate it, and let's call this one Tim Vest. Okay. We'll tab in here, and let's get rid of all of these vertices here, or all those faces there. Actually, I guess since we're in face select mode, we can just select one face out of each and Control L, and it'll select all the faces up to the seam right there. So we'll go ahead and delete those faces. There we go. And let's go ahead and do the same thing on the collar. We have a seam right here along the edge, so we'll get inside there, and then this one outside. Control L. Go ahead and delete those. Okay. And let's go ahead and select this loop right there. And we'll go ahead and delete that. And I think that's pretty good. Yeah, we'll call that good. There's a couple of things I want to do. Let's go ahead and delete this half. Kind of do like we did on the shirt. Create a mirror modifier for it. There we go. Go ahead and pop that up above the subsurf. We tab out. And tell you what, just so we can see it a little better, well, I was going to go ahead and create a material for it, but the easiest way is just to go ahead and grab the shirt and hide that. Well, actually, let's unhide it because we need it there when we're modeling the vest so that we can get it in the right position. So, that being said, let's go ahead and create a material for it. So just go to your materials, and let's go ahead and just duplicate this. Actually, let's grab the one from the pants, and just go ahead and duplicate that, and we'll call this one Tim Vest. There we go. Go to our materials. Oh, and by the way, I need to go back to the pants and turn the normal map back on for that, so we get the wrinkles and everything. So, okay, grab the vest, and let's go ahead and get rid of that normal map. Go ahead and delete that. And we'll bump that one up, and go ahead and bump that one up. And Tim Pants color, let's go ahead and hit the number right there to create a duplicate. And we'll call this one Tim Vest color. Okay. And I like to make this one a little bit different color than the pants, a little bit lighter. So let's click in here and just drag the slider up just a little bit. I think we're actually going to have two separate materials here. We'll create like the the woolen type of texture there on the front, and then we'll have like a satin back. So we'll get to that shortly, but in the meantime, we got the vest a little bit different color. Let's go ahead and change the hue here just so we can see it a little better here in our clay view. And okay, so right now it kind of looks like a sweater vest, which is not what I want. I want like a suit coat vest, so from like a three-piece suit type of thing. So let's go to our modifiers, and I'm going to add a shrink wrap modifier right there. And I'm going to have it shrink wrap to the shirt. So let's go ahead and grab Tim shirt. There we go. And you can kind of see it's already the same shape already because it's a duplicate, so it's obviously going to be the exact same shape. But while I'm working with it, I want it to still maintain the closeness to the shirt. So I put this shrink wrap on there. Let's go ahead and bump that above subsurface and make sure we check the keep above surface. Go ahead and give it some offset, 0.02, maybe a little more, 0.03. That looks good. Okay, now what I want to do, let me go ahead and let's select this loop here. Go ahead and get rid of that one too, and then we can start. Let's turn on our proportional editing. We can start modifying the collar area to come down a little further. Let's go ahead and turn on clipping right there on our mirror. So let's go ahead and just drag this down till we get a sizable opening there at the top. There we go. And let's go ahead and increase the size of the armhole as well. Let's go ahead and just grab the bottom of it and move it down to about like so. Maybe round it off just a little bit. And tell you what, let's select this loop here. Well, you know what, let's get it all shaped the way we want, and then we'll worry about adding seams and everything after that. So let's just Get it sized up the way we want. And just make this a little bit bigger. Grab those guys there. Drag them down. And maybe let's straighten this out a little bit. Tell you what, let's just grab all these guys here. And W smooth. A couple of times. There we go. And I think that'll work. Let's make this area here a little bit small. Actually, I guess since we have the shrink wrap turned on, we're not really able to modify that at all. So let's go ahead and apply our mirror, and we'll go ahead and apply our shrink wrap. Now, since we have the shrink wrap, in place according to the shirt position, let's go ahead and delete the half again, so we can, and we'll go ahead and add a mirror again. But this will give us the opportunity to modify both sides at the same time. So we'll pop that up, and now we can just select everything. Go ahead and turn on clipping. Alt S, just to make it a little bit bigger. Okay, and let's make sure this middle's lined up. There we go. Okay. So that's looking okay. Let's go ahead and grab the armhole. Let's add a loop right around it, really close, and then we'll grab the armhole itself and scale it down a little bit. Turn off our proportional editing first. Maybe bring this out a little bit. Kind of give that illusion of the thickness of the fabric there. Let's do the same thing around the collar area. Just going to extrude that, scale it down just a little bit. Okay, there we go. And now, let's grab the bottom and make that a little smaller so it looks like... Well, no, actually it needs to be a little bigger because it's going to come above the pants. So let's turn that back on. Scale that up some. And let's grab these two guys here, drag those down. Scale them a little closer together so we have kind of a pointed look there. Okay, so now we got a nice vest, dress vest. Okay, and of course we'll go ahead and do the same thing around the bottom here. Just extrude out and then turn off our proportional editing first, or it's going to scale everything nearby. So just turn that off and then scale it down just a little bit. And let's go ahead and add a loop right there just so we get a little bit sharper edge around it. There we go. Okay, now in order for well, let me do one thing. I was going to say in order for the buttons to go on here and look nicely, we'll have to go ahead and apply the mirror and then give an overlap there, so it looks like it's a buttoned vest. But before we do that, let's fix up these guys here. There we go. I want to go ahead and add a seam down the side here. And then right there, drag that in just a little. There we go. Let's straighten it up a little bit better. Maybe drag this up just a little. Okay, and then let's do the same thing up here on the shoulder. So right there. Okay, and then add one more loop inside. Just drag that down. And there we go. Looks like it's coming up through the collar, so let's go ahead and grab it and drag it down to where it's not doing that. And then maybe forward a little bit. This guy. Okay. So we got the decent looking vest going on there. Let's go ahead and apply that mirror. And now, what I want to do is kind of the same thing we did on the sides. Let's add one loop here. Okay, and then we'll add another loop in between, and then move that in a little bit, scale it down a tad, and then we will grab everything there in the middle and drag it. Let's see, try to remember which, I guess on a guy's vest, the overlap is, it'll come over from the left side, so need to drag it to the right so it looks like, one thing that you might have turned on, X mirror right here, so it won't let you go past the middle. So let's go ahead and turn that off, and then we'll drag it over like so. Let's drag it over a little bit, and then let's grab this guy, bring that back over, so it kind of gives the illusion that it's kind of folding over right there. And let's get those a lot closer together so we get a sharper transition right there. Same thing on these guys. I guess we can just grab those and scale them together a little bit. And almost there. Drag that over to like that. Okay, so now it looks like a nice folded over vest. So, okay, now that we've got the actual vest done, let's go ahead and add some buttons to it. Actually, I was going to say one thing I want to do is make the shoulders a little more narrow, but we already turned off the mirror, so it'd be hard to get them even, so we'll just leave it alone. But let's go ahead and create some buttons. I'm going to go Shift A, and I'm going to add a circle. Drag that down here, and let's rotate it 90 degrees. Actually, let me go ahead and delete that. Let's add a circle, and then over here in our options, make sure we say fill type, and we'll say triangle fan. Okay, and we don't need 32 vertices. Let's go ahead and set that to 12, and now we can move it around. Okay, so let's rotate it 90 degrees on the x-axis. I hit the right buttons. Oh, this whole time I haven't had the screencast keys on. Sorry about that. Rotate that 90 degrees on the x-axis. There we go. Now we'll tab in, and we have the outer loop already selected. So I'm going to hit E to extrude, and then we'll scale it up a little bit. And then let's select everything. Let's go to our side view, and we'll extrude this back on the y-axis. And let's add one loop right there in the middle, and then scale it up just a little bit. Okay, then let's select this right here. Hold down Control and Alt and right-click there on the edge, and it should select that loop. And we'll go ahead and extrude that out, and then scale it down a little bit. Okay, and let's go ahead and give it a smooth shading right there. There we go. And go ahead and give it subdivision surface. You can kind of see it's starting to look like a button. Oops. Let's add one more loop right in here. Scale that up a little bit. Okay. Now we need to add some button holes, and the easiest way to do that is to make use of the mirror modifier. So we'll go ahead and select all these guys, delete them, and now we'll add the mirror. And instead of only being on the x-axis, we're going to go on the y-axis as well. Let's go ahead and pop that above the subsurface modifier. And now what I want to do, oops, go back to front view, is let's select these faces here. They're on the front and back. And make sure our clipping is not turned on. But now we're going to hit E to extrude. And now I'm going to hit S to scale, but I'm going to go Shift Y. So it's only scaling on the X and Z axis. So it's only on the vertical and horizontal right now. So we'll scale that down a little bit. Move it in there. And you can see it did not scale it this way because we hit Shift Y. So it did. It says when you hit, like when you're scaling, for example, right now I hit S to scale. It scales on the X, Y, and Z. If I hit SZ, it only scales on the Z. But if I hit S Shift Z, it scales on everything except the Z. So if that makes sense. Okay. So I want to scale this way down. Shift Y, actually. If I can do this right. S, Shift Y. There we go. Make it pretty small. And then I'm going to add a loop around it. And we're going to say smooth. Let's get rid of these faces in here. Go and delete those faces. There we go. And I'm going to add a loop or cut right there. Loop cut right there. Now I select all these guys. Let's go to vertex select mode now. And go ahead and select these as well. I guess I need to add a loop on this back side too. There we go. And And select all those guys, and we're going to go W smooth. Smooth that up a few times. Okay. And it's not quite behaving the same on both sides. Let's just kind of organize it to where it about lines up pretty well. So let's select that, and we'll go ahead and turn on proportional editing. Scale that Shift Y a little bit bigger now. Drag it down a little bit closer to the middle. Let's go ahead and turn clipping on too. There we go. Okay, so now we have our button holes. Let's go ahead and connect the edges there. So just select those two, F, 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 and finally F. Okay, and let's add a loop in there so it's a little bit smoother. And okay, let's scale this up a little bit. Maybe this one back there. Okay. Seeing some weirdness here on the corners. So let's grab these faces there. Maybe just smooth the circle up a little bit better. Okay, that'll work. They're going to be small, and you won't be able to really see anyways. And they'll render at this subsurf division, so can't really even see it. So let's bump that back down to 1. And now, one thing we need to do is add some thread in here to our buttons. So let's go ahead and select this loop right here. Go to our side view, and let's go ahead and Shift D to duplicate those vertices. We'll scale them down just a little bit. Extrude out. About like so, and then we'll just kind of start rotating it around. Extrude one more time, rotate it around. Scale it down just a little bit. Extrude, rotate. And let's go ahead and just connect it to itself right there. So now you can see it looks like some thread holding it in. So let's go ahead and Control L, select all that, and drag it back in a little bit to where it's more tight around the buttonholes. Like so. And go ahead and say smooth shading again. Now you notice you see some black lines, and the reason that is because the thread things that we made here are actually the normals are the opposite of what they should be, because what I did was when I selected that loop and this loop here, the normal faces are facing this way, facing towards the hole, but since I extruded them out, they're still facing towards the inside of our thread. So what I need to do is select one of the vertices on the thread and go Control N, and it'll recalculate the normal so they're pointing the right direction. Okay, so now we have our button. Let's go ahead and Shift select the vest, and we're going to go Control J, and it's going to merge. Oops. First of all, I need to go ahead and apply that mirror. There we go. Now Shift J, and they're joined together, so it's now just one big object. So now I can select the button, scale it down, and start putting it into place there on the vest. Scale it down just a little bit. Okay, so let's give him, let's say 4 buttons down the front here. Put it in place right there too. Okay, so I'm going to just Shift D, duplicate it down a little bit. And right there. And finally, right there. Okay, that looks okay. They seem to be a little too low for me, so let's grab them all. Let's just select the vest, Control L, and then we'll go select inverse, so it selects all the buttons. And let's just move them up a little bit. There we go. Now, to give them a little bit more of a more lifelike quality, let's rotate them a little bit so they're not all perfectly lined up. There we go. Let's rotate it a little bit like so. Make sure it's still connected to the shirt there, or the vest, I guess. And let's go ahead and grab all these guys. Okay. and rotate that. If we hit R and then Y twice, it should rotate around the button's normals, but I guess it's not lined up just right. So let's just eyeball it. Set it about like, maybe about like so. Okay. And then finally, the guy there on the bottom. Okay. So there we go. Now we've got all our buttons on there. Now, let's go ahead and give the material, see, we have the woolen material there for the front. Let's go ahead and create the satin material for the back. Let's call this one Tim _ vest satin. Okay. And go ahead and give it a color as well. It's going to be a blend. Same thing we did on the everything else that has just one color. Turn on the ramp, delete the first one there. And let's give it a very subtle, kind of a violet shade. Maybe about right there. Okay. And then come to our material settings here. And the specular level, let's give it more of a purplish hue. And that, you can see that kind of gives it a satin color. So set the intensity down a little bit, about 0.35, and the hardness also make that 3.5, so we can see what that looks like. Maybe 2.5. Okay, so let's tab into edit mode here, grab our face select, grab one of those faces there on the back, and it should have only selected the faces there. Let's make sure our seams are all the way across. Mark the seam there. Make sure this one is. Mark the seam there. Okay, so now let's see. Actually, I guess I need to do it on both sides, don't I? So select that. Probably when we added that bottom edge to it, it didn't add a seam right there. So now we hit Control E and mark the seam there, and now it's completely separated. And it probably did that same thing up here on the top, on the shoulder. Well, I don't even see a seam on this side, so let's make sure we're even up there. Is it inside there? Oh no, it's up there. There we go. And Control E, mark the seam. Okay, so now face select should be just the back. Yes. Okay, and we'll go ahead and add the satin to that. There we go. And now let's create one more material in here, and we'll say new, and we're just going to call this one black plastic. Okay, and we'll go ahead and set the diffuse to black here. Not completely black, a very, very dark gray. At the intensity all the way up. And then on the specular, let's set the intensity all the way to 1.0. And the hardness, let's make that 150. So it's going to be very shiny, like plastic. Actually, let's set the specular intensity. Let's make that a little lower, about 0.5. Okay. So now we'll tab in here and go to our vertex select mode, and we can select one of the vertices on the vest, Control L, and then we'll go select inverse. Now we have only the buttons selected, so go ahead and assign that black plastic to the buttons. And there we go. Now the thread on the buttons is not going to be black plastic as well, so we could almost get away with applying the vest color to the threads, but let's create one more material in here, and we'll choose the black plastic, but we're going to duplicate it, and we'll call this one black thread, and set the specular way down, about 0.2, and then the hardness to 10 or so. And actually, this could be like the vest, where it doesn't have a specular level at all. And then we'll set the thread a little bit lighter. Okay, so now let's select all these threads. Okay. Oops. Wrong vertex. There we go. Okay. And we'll assign the black thread to that. And you can see it's a little bit more dull. So there we are. I guess the the satin should stop at the seam. So let's select these faces here, not that one. Let's just go to our side view and select on both sides. And then this face, those faces. Oops. There. Okay. And barely see it. There. Okay. And we'll say, I guess that needs to be the regular vest woolen texture. There we go. Well, I guess we need to do the same thing down here. Select inside the seam there. Go ahead and assign that. There we go. And it brings that color all the way to the edge there. So let's do it on this side too. Okay. There we go. So now we have the woolen texture there on the front and the satin on the back, and it meets up nicely with the seams. So let's go ahead and do a test render here. So look through our camera, and let's rotate it around so we can see a little bit of the back as well. There we go. And I'll go ahead and render out, pause recording, and be right back with the render. Okay, and there's our finished vest. I think it's looking pretty nice. I don't know how much that looks like satin, but it'll probably be fine for now. Tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to rotate the camera around one more time just so we can get a good view from the front. All those nice little buttons we worked on. Zoom out just a tad. Okay, and I'll go ahead and render this out, and then we'll call part 12 done. Part 13 we'll get in and work on the shoes and probably do the tie. So go ahead and render out one last time. And I'll pause and be right back. And here we go. It's a finished final render there. And I'm really digging the way this is going. So I hope you guys are liking it as much as I am. I really like this style. Those buttons look nice. I'm proud of those. Okay, so like I said, in part 13 we'll do the tie, and then we'll go ahead and do the shoes. And that's going to be it for part 12. So as I said, I'll catch you on part 13. And thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.